Okay, I think we're live. Welcome back. It's been a little bit. I have had to figure some things out, but now let's just jump right into our project that we've been working on. We started with a brand new site with 11D as our static site generator. That's the tech that we're kind of working on. And that's where we see this lovely page here. I've thrown in some content so you didn't have to watch that. So that's what's happened behind the scenes. And I'll just walk you through kind of what it looks like as well. Because there were just a couple of things that I didn't show on the last live stream. So I just want to catch you up. There is a new, I'm not sure if this file was actually there before, but I have a new .11d.js. And this is kind of like your config file, I guess you could consider it as for this 11D project. And what I've done is basically I've added this little 11D config declaration, and then I'm saying, hey, in the config, we're gonna add pass-through copy of static. And what I'm doing there is I'm just saying that I want the static folder to basically be something you can pull from. So I have a static folder over here in the directory, in the project directory, and it just has all of the images right now. And we're actually going to be using this a lot today because we are going to try and set up our CSS in a brand new Sass framework so that we can just make something really nice and maintainable. That's the goal here. So the last thing, just to walk you through one more change that I did, I kind of cleaned up the directories. I was kind of all over the place last time. So what I've done here is we have this is our index page. So this is the home page. So if you can see the H1 is page stuff, and that's what you see up here. So that's our home page. And then we also have this resources page. We can see resources. And if I go over here and click on the link to go to resources at the top, you can see now we are on the resources page. And we're basically going to be working on these two probably today, maybe even just one, who knows. We'll see. But basically what I've done is these are now like page templates, and then the content for those pages are going to be found in kind of various spots. But I could probably still get this, make a little bit more sense. But if we go into the resources directory here, you can see I've got, advanced books. Yeah, these are all basically the list pages for these topics. So if I go back here and I click on quick tips, for example, at the top, this is now the page that is right here, quick tips. So all it's doing is it's giving it an H1, and then I'm gonna say, look for the tips tag in the content, in our content folder, which is right here. So these are all pages, and then the content, the actual content, like, let me switch back. So like responsive URLs, that's one of the quick tips. If I go down, write an email with a link, that's another quick tip. Fix blue links, that's also a quick tip, etc. So all of that is held inside of the content folder right here. And I even put them inside of the folders that they're basically being referenced. So that was under quick tips. So if I go into tips, then you can see there's like that fixed blue link that we were just talking about. And so this just holds the content for these little cards, is what I'm imagining. Is we have a couple of list pages, and then on the list page, it's going to bring in all the cards that are tagged with the tips, or, it could appear on multiple pages depending on what the content is. So hopefully that's not too confusing. I think it'll make a little more sense when we dive in here just a little bit more, but I'm gonna just twirl these up, and let's get our static, actually, yeah, this is good, because I'm not totally sure. Oh, actually, that's correct. Yes. I got ahead of myself. But it's time to set up our CSS. So I'm going to go in here, create a new folder, and I'm going to call it CSS. and I want it right under static. And then what I'm going to do is let's create our first SCSS file, which would be our styles. I like to call it styles with a plural. Just a personal choice. Feel free to put whatever you like. This is going to be our main hub that pulls everything in that we're going to be using. And I'm also going to be trying out the correct way to use the most recent version of Sass. I don't know that I have the most recent version, but I do know that typically on a styles like this, you'd be doing a lot of import statements, and that's technically bad practice now. So I'm going to be trying to wrap my head around the new way of doing things, which would be like @use instead of import. So that's what we're going to be using for this. And I already know the way that I like to structure my Sass files. I already have kind of a framework that I have kind of worked out. Whoops. There we go. Abstracts. I really like the atomic design framework. I like the idea of it, but sometimes it gets a little too complex for marketing websites, which is what I really excel in, that's what I do all day long is marketing type websites. So not necessarily products, not necessarily, any other kind of websites. These are sites that are supposed to be visited. You get information from them, but you're not really performing actions that like you would with a product where, I need to create some file or tweak some settings and do stuff that is productive. So there's just a heads up for where I'm coming up with these. So I do tend to use an atoms folder, an abstracts folder, and then a components folder. Components, and then I usually do a layout as well. So I like to kind of separate these. And the idea here is abstracts is stuff like variables, things that I need to be using throughout the site, maybe their colors, things like that. Atoms would be just like little things like buttons, maybe form fields if I need that. Just a little stuff that on its own needs to be styled, but is usually compounded somewhere else in the components. And so the components, instead of doing like molecules and organisms, which is what the atomic design framework goes for, I just kind of stuff them all into components because I feel like with marketing stuff, it's all pretty easily grouped. We don't need to have organisms as like the top level with a molecule in the middle and then atoms at the very bottom. We can just cut out the middleman and just combine it, and I just call it components. Layout is usually stuff like your grid system for how the pages is laid out. Where's the nav? Where's the footer? How do we lay those out? Are we using grid, flex, that kind of stuff? So that's kind of my basic setup. I'm gonna hit save. I haven't started Sass just yet, but I will go ahead and start adding these folders really fast. So I already said abstracts, and then I'm gonna need one more. Let's do atoms. Let's create another one for components, and then we can do the last one, which is layout. And then the last thing I want to do, since we're scaffolding this right now, right? I think we're just gonna go ahead and create these little helper files. So what I'm gonna do is create a new file inside of each of these. They're gonna be the index.scss. Actually, I think we want to prepend it, just like that. And what this is gonna do is since I'm not using the import statements, I'm gonna actually end up using forward statements here @forward. And then I'm going to put the file that I want to package up and send so that we can use these throughout the file or throughout the system. And so I'm just going to leave this blank, but I'm going to have this ready for when we do add files to our layout. And that way we don't have to remember later and we're like, it's broken. So let's do another index.scss. I'm going to copy it this time. Boom. Oops. No, you got to do it in the right folder. There we go. And our last one. Okay. Alrighty. So now we have this all set up and ready for us. The only thing left to do really is let's get this set up. Let's get the what's it called? Sass running. So I'm gonna open up a terminal here, and then let me grab, I have a little shortcut because this is always so fun to remember. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd or change directory into my static folder and then CSS and then hit enter. So now I can see that we've got all of our folders and our styles file there. And then I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to show you what this means. So we're going to start up Sass. We're going to watch it. That helps us do like the hot reloading. So we already have a server running for L11D that reloads, and now we're going to watch for any changes in our CSS and compile it down into our styles.css. So when we see changes that this styles.scss relies on, then it's gonna just recompile for us, and that way we can just whip stuff out as fast as possible. And I like to add this --style equals compressed because then it minifies it all, the final styles.css. That's just a really nice thing, helps with performance. And so I'm gonna hit enter and hope that this works. Looks good so far. Cool. I think we are ready to get started. So the first thing, we can take a look how this is. Let's look at our home page. And again, the idea that I'm thinking is having these little snippets kind of just be cards. And I think that might be a good way to just start out, is maybe just making a basic card style and then kind of grouping things up, and then we can start to get into some of the more fun parts of CSS, getting things to look nicer. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's see, we should probably, I'm going to do, now I'm thinking maybe I should just hurry and do a quick reset. So maybe I'll go into abstracts. I'm going to create a new file, and let's just call this like base.scss. It's going to be underscore. And this is where we need to add in some of our just basic cleanup for our CSS so that it looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and let's start off with star before and then star : after. This is going to take care of a lot of things for us. We're going to change this to the border box sizing. There we go. That'll fix a lot of problems for us later. And then, of course, also we want to get rid of the margin. So I don't want margin to be messing with me all the time, the default margins. So then last thing is, let's do on our HTML. I learned this from Kevin Powell, super great YouTuber. You should definitely go watch his content on CSS. A lot of this is from my notes from him. So I'm going to use color scheme. We're going to do light and dark. And this line allows us to be able to have both of those available. So if the user chooses the dark theme, when they go to our site, that's going to be the theme that's applied, which is kind of cool. So I do want to support that, because I think that's a really fun way to first of all respect people's preferences, and also I think it's just cool to be able to switch between different color schemes like that. And the last one, let's do this. We'll do an image. So I want to make this already responsive. So I'm just going to force everything to be a max width of 100, and then the display is going to be block. And that way we don't have to worry about classes like on Bootstrap where you do image-fluid or img-fluid. That's usually, you end up with that all over the place. So I'd rather just have it be responsive on first load, and then if there are things like maybe icons that should be like scaled way down or whatever, we can just work with those. But the majority of images end up in containers themselves, so I'd rather have them fill the container. For example, this image is already huge. I'm side scrolling, but as soon as I get a container around it, it's with this image style, it's gonna just fit the container that I put in it, which is gonna be really nice. And then the last thing, let's get the fonts just in a better spot. I think I'm gonna put that in the body, and then we're gonna do font family. We're just gonna do yeah, we can do this one. I like Franklin Gothic. Yeah, so I just want a sans serif, and now you're gonna notice that nothing has happened here. Even if I refresh, we have not hooked up our CSS just yet, because we need to. This is where this forwarding and using comes into play. So that's why we have this index here. I'm gonna say at forward, and then in quotes base. Oh wait, we don't need to. Sorry, too used to other things. Just base. That's our name. It does ignore the underscore here, since it's a partial technically. So we can just say forward base, save, and then I think the last thing. Let's see. Oh, we did already do that. So let's check this out and see if this works. Oh, you know what? I'm not sure that we actually put anything in our, what am I looking for? Yeah, so we need to add the link to the style sheet, because that's not currently hooked up. Oh, I think it's includes. Okay. All right, so in my includes folder, I'm going to go into base, and then up here, this is where we have, this gets applied site-wide. So hopefully, if I go up here into the head, I'm going to add a link for our CSS. And we're going to go styles, and it is in the static folder. So static/CSS/styles.css. Okay, so now if I save that, we should see some changes, and we sure do. Alrighty. The font looks really weird. That's very strange. Maybe my Franklin Gothic is kind of... I'm just gonna see if sans serif just makes it a little bit better. Okay, maybe my Franklin Gothic medium is a little bit weird for some reason. So I'm going to just change that, because it's going to bother me to have kind of squished text. So I don't need this anymore. I don't technically need that. So yeah, back here into our styles and into our abstracts. Let's just fix that right now so I'm not bothered by it constantly. I can actually just change this to Helvetica. Oops. Can't type today. Save that, and let's go back here. Looking nice. Oh, why are you doing this to me? All right, I'm just gonna take all this out. I'm not sure if I have like some weird thing on my system, so we're just going to go with that so that... And of course it still is not doing it. So anyway, I just have to deal with this weird squished text. I'm not totally sure what I've done here, but we will figure this out. Probably off the live stream though. So anyway, we have a nice base here, I think. Let's see. Just want to see if there's anything else I want to take care of right this moment. I think we're good. And then yeah, let's just jump right into our cards, because that's an easy one to kind of see us start to group. So I'm going to go into components, because I feel like a card is usually composed of several things, and I also like to put container type things into the components folder. So I wouldn't call, I wouldn't put a card, or I wouldn't put a banner, some of those kind of like larger elements or containers in the atoms, even though they are pretty basic. That's just my preference. So again, we're going to create a new file here. Let's just call this cards and .scss. I always forget that underscore there. And then just before I forget, let's just go ahead and hook up the index right now. So at forward, and then we're going to do cards and semicolon. Save. All right. So now we have cards, and this is just ready for us. So I want to look one more time at what we have for our structure. I've already created this kind of template, if you will, of this is what a card is made of. Is going to have the class of card. It might have an image, it might not. So we have to make sure we figure for that. And then it'll have the title and then the content with a class of content. So there's a couple of classes that we have at our disposal if we need that. But I think we can probably just start with styling up our card. So let's go back here into our cards. We know that we had the card class, that's a single card. And I like to do, we'll just start off with some borders, right? Border, we'll just do 1 pixel solid. And we'll just keep it black for now. And then let's do a border radius as well, just to keep it looking kind of nice and clean. And let's just start off with like a, I don't know, 10 pixel radius. We'll see if that's too big. And then I'll save and see what has happened, if anything. And I may have to make sure. Let's see. Oh, that's weird. It's actually only because that. Okay. Anyway, I'm still baffled by this font thing. Yeah. All right, let's just double check here that we have the card class. That's correct. And it is not being pulled in. So let's double check what we've done here. Open this up. Index, cards, card. And then components. That looks like it should be correct. So let me double check our styles here. And we're not seeing that in there. So, okay. Use components. Oh, you know what? This may be where I'm making my first mistake, potentially. I'm just going to check my notes here. Components, index, forward. Okay, well, it should be, this is correct, at forward cards. And then, components. Yeah, I'm actually not sure why it's doing that. Maybe I need to hard refresh, because that also could be the case. Not seeing it. Gotta love that live coding, right? Let me see. Check forget what we're doing here. So styles is not, let me see what it says. And it says it's all compiling. Components. Oh, did I not? Let's see. Let me make sure I saved all these. And forward base, that should work just fine. Huh, I'm really perplexed right now. Alrighty. Card is the right name. Let me double check that. That's the right name, card. Why aren't you compiling though? So let's see. Oh, it is compiling. I missed that. Oh, it's just not, why aren't you showing up on here then? So if I go in here, I should see, let's double check the head, because maybe for some reason this is not styles.css. Should we go here maybe? Just see what's happening behind the curtain. Make sure that's correct. Card. Oh, is it not compiling? Maybe it's not. Maybe 11D is having some trouble with updating. So let me double check here. Looks like you can't see this very well. Copied the files. So what are we missing? All right. 11D, let's check out our site just to see what's going on here. Looks like it was working, and then it's not getting our last changes. So let's just go ahead and make yet another change just to force it to kind of catch up. Yeah, let's just do classic background color of red just to get it one more thing, and then let's go back here and see if that's updated at all. And that's also why my fonts are kind of weird right now, because the Franklin Gothic is still being pulled in. Not sure why this static CSS styles is still out of date, because that would be unfortunate. Style sheet, static CSS and styles. I don't know, maybe I need to restart maybe I'll just restart the server here. Okay. And now it's finally working. Okay. So yeah, hopefully we won't have to do this too much more often, but yeah, it may have cached and then just didn't recognize things or something. But yeah, okay, so that's a good tip to know when you're working with 11D, that if you're not seeing a change, especially with static, I'm sure the static folders are not always easy to play with the hot reload thing. But yeah, restarting the server, you should always reboot. That's just like classic computer science tip there. So it does look like we're finally working. Let's go ahead and get rid of this awful style, and then also 10 pixels is way too much, so let's back off to like 6. And I also want to add some padding. However, I do want to have that image go like full flush across the card, so I'm not going to do that on the card itself. So let's double check here. We have a content class. We have, okay, so this is where, full steam ahead, right? This is where I kind of get into the HTML structure. I really try to stay as lean as possible, but I do think there are times when it makes sense to have just a little bit of structure in place. So I'm going to add another class. I'm going to call it card media, because maybe I'll have a video, maybe I'll have an image, who knows. Oh, and actually I'm going to add that inside this if statement, so that if there is, you know, an image, then it's going to create this card media. We don't really need it if we don't have an image there. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a card dash content, because this is going to hold all of our text. And that's why I'll probably want to get rid of this content class, just because it could get confusing. So I'm going to call it body, since this is the headline or the title, however you want to define that. And then this would be like the body text. So I'm going to hit save and just make sure that nothing crazy is going on. Looks like I haven't broken too much. Now we have a structure that we can add some padding to without having to worry about that image, you know, issue. So let's try this out. Card content. I'm gonna put it, might as well just put it inside and use Sass for the awesome nested ability. When you put the and then no space and then anything after that, we're basically saying take this same class or selector and stuff it right here. So this basically becomes card content. We're going to put a padding on this. We're going to just do 1 rem for now. And then the last thing I want to do is let's do the same thing for our card media. And that's not the right one. Ampersand. And in here we're going to let's do like a margin. Well, let's see. Oh, I guess we don't need that if the padding's on the content. So let's I'll comment that out for now. And then let's refresh, and yep, I might have to, I'll just restart the server really fast. So now, okay, so now we're seeing some padding here around the text. And then if we go down to this, with this image here, I believe this is correct, because I can see the border kind of, it's really hard to tell between these two, but there's a border with the border radius on the very corners of the screen, or the edges of the screen, and then this image is no longer creating a side scroll, so I can't side scroll anymore, which means our image responsive, you know, tip there is working, which is super nice. And so cool, we're already starting to build up our components and stuff. Let's go back. I don't know that we need anything for media now that I'm thinking about it, so let me just get rid of that for now. We can always add it back later. And then let's do a couple of typography things, because that'll be really nice to kind of add some space. So like this featured tips is not in a card, it's just an H2, I believe, and so it needs to have a little bit of that padding above and below it, and same with this H1 up here. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. I'm going to put that in our base. So I like to put typography kind of things all together, and that's usually in my base. So let's do H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. And all of these are going to have we want to have, I just want to make sure I'm thinking about this right. So I think we want to have a padding of on top, we're going to do like, we want more space on top than on bottom, because a headline is supposed to clearly delineate when it belongs to, you know, the body text. So if it's too close to the body text above it, then it looks like it belongs to that text. And I won't belabor that point because I have some videos on that, but I'm going to do, let's just do 1M, and then, oops, not comma, for the top, 0 on the side, and then like 0.5M on the bottom. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is going to be relative to the font size of the parent, I believe. I may be wrong, so don't quote me on that one, but I think this is kind of a cool way to add the spacing. And then, let's see, the last thing I want to do, maybe I'll do this 1.5 just to give some extra wiggle room. And then, oh yes, and back in our cards, I was also thinking we probably want some margin bottom, just to be safe. We probably will put this in a grid. We'll probably do that next. But just to kind of see, you know, what we're doing here, see if we can separate this out so it looks a little bit better. That looks much better. A lot easier to kind of understand. So yeah, now we finally have some distance for our headlines for each section. However, we did start to mess up the card headlines because we probably don't want all of that space above it when it's inside of a card. So let's fix that, and then we'll jump into like the grid stuff. Let me double check here. Actually, I think do I have that? I'm trying to look through my notes to kind of speed this up so that we don't have to. Let's do, what do I want? Headings. Okay, I saw this really cool method on Stack Overflow actually, and it's a really cool way to kind of, because this is really annoying to me to have to define every single heading. So there's actually a way we can do a mix-in with headings so that we can just capture them all at the same time. And we don't have to do this, you know, throughout all of our, because maybe we'll need this for our cards, for example. So let's fix this up by creating our first mix-in file. I'm going to put this again in abstracts because I think mix-ins make a lot of sense right there. I'm just going to do a file for now, but we may end up refactoring that into a folder, and then but I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. So here's I'll put the link as well. Let's see if I can do this. Oops, that didn't work. Grab that. That worked. Okay. So now I've, you know, documented where I got this from, this Stack Overflow answer. So if you want to see that, I will be cleaning up this directory, this project, for you to be able to actually have it from GitHub. But you'll have to give me a little bit to fix this up. So eventually you will have this, and I will be posting that in the description once I have that all cleaned up and ready for you to download. So I apologize. That's one of the other housekeeping things I forgot to mention. But basically what this is doing is we've created a mix-in called headings so that you can include headings, and then whatever you put inside. So like if let's just assume, so you can see where it comes from. If we're doing this, include our headings. Whoops, we don't want this. I'm too used to the other way. So in this case, we can actually do very similar as if we had just created another mix-in. This time we're using the curly braces, and because of this at content, whatever's inside here is going to be applied to all of the H1, H2, H3, blah, blah, blah. So this would become kind of like you're just declaring another style, but this time we just have the headings to take care of all of this for us, which is super nice. So let's go ahead and let's do it for real. I'll put this in here. We need to hook this up, mix ins, save, and let's go to our cards, and then we want to include headings, and then we want to get rid of that padding, right? So our padding, we'll just get rid of the padding top for now and see how that works. So I'm going to save, I'm going to hurry and restart the server, and let's go back here, and there we go. Okay, so now it's, oh, I broke something else. Yep, I did. Include headings, padding top. That should be correct. What am I missing here? Oh, let's see. Ooh, do I need to... Let me double check that I did the ordering correctly, because... Oh, you know what? Maybe we'll do this a little bit differently, just to see if this works. This is another awesome Stack Overflow. I am worried that maybe I didn't quite do this just right. So let me try one more time. We'll get rid of that. I'll throw in a little break here, and then here's the other source. Oops. Let's try this one though. This was also a really cool thing, so hopefully this one will work. Fairly similar, but this time instead of a mix-in, it's basically creating this kind of like an alias for headings, so that we can just use this % headings throughout the style sheet. So let's just see if that helps our current situation, and then I can go back and see what I did wrong with this. So I'm just gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna hit % headings, and then I think we just go like this. Hopefully, we'll see. And then I'm gonna restart the server one more time. Let's go back to Chrome, and it does fix it. Okay. Let's double check what's going on here though, because it didn't look like the padding's actually gone. Yeah, so maybe what I need to do is, well, let me just refresh one more time. Okay, so I think one thing that I think is pretty cool is, again, going back to Kevin Powell and his work, and then also highlighting, I think it's Adam Argyle, learning some cool things for CSS about like the where selector. And what this is doing is I'm basically making this 0 specificity so that I don't have to continuously override this. So that way this could be like kind of your default stuff, but if I have anything anywhere else for like an H1 or all of them, then it gets overridden with that specificity in mind. So let's see if that helps. I'm basically just saying like this is the default, but since we're going into cards and saying, hey, all of our headings underneath the card class if there's a heading inside of a card, get rid of the padding top. So let's just see if that makes any difference. So I don't have to debug too much more. Doesn't look like it. So again, I may have messed up something. I guess we can check the output styles just really fast to see what happened here. H1. And it's not actually showing me that it's working. So yeah, that may be the reason why that didn't work the first time. So when all else fails, you just go back to here, and then on the next live stream, if I can remember, I will try and get that to work correctly. So then let's restart the server. I'm really disappointed this isn't working automatically, but finally this is working now. So yeah, okay, I'll have to work on that heading thing, such as, you know, learning, right? And yeah, but our cards are looking good. Let's fix up the grid and then probably call it good for this time. Yeah, so let's go into layout. And what I'm thinking is we could just use, you know, grid for just, you know, just stuff all the cards in there. And I am still learning grid. Like I have used it. I'm not can't talk and type. I'm not as good with grid just intuitively, so I do have to use a lot of references. So we will see how this works. But I'm gonna hurry and set up our forwarding at forward and then grid. Save, and we'll go back to grid.scss, and I think let's see, let's double check what our structure is here. We have main. Oh, okay, so it's right in the main, and then all of our cards are right in there. So we're gonna want to create one more layer of structure so that we can just lay out the cards, because I don't want to do too much with the page layout with grid. That may change later as well, but let's just get the cards kind of lining up so that they're kind of, you know, maybe 3 or 4 on a row. And we're gonna do this by first, let's add the structure for these cards. Oh, that's a good question. Where do we put it though? So all right, so content. All right, so not in this base stuff. We want to put this in probably, yeah, okay, so yeah, we'll probably have to do it on each page. So the index page is gonna, it's gonna need the card grid, and then I'll have to do that on any other places where I'm pulling in cards from our pseudo database. So yes, let's do, oh yeah, because I'm only, oh yeah, so I didn't show you this either. This was kind of cool. I'm pulling in, I think this was supposed to be like kind of like a featured section where I'm grabbing the advanced tag cards, so any cards that are tagged advanced, and then I'm assigning it to this top advanced variable. But what I've done is I've gotten only the first 3, 0 to 3. I'm pretty sure that's not inclusive, so it would be the first 3, you know, cards in this collection, and then I'm outputting those so that we can have kind of a featured section, and then all of the cards listed after that, wherever they may need to be. So this is kind of like since it's on the homepage, it's like a call out of like, oh, here's like the top 3 for this specific topic, and then I could do that for all of the topics really. So anyway, that's just pretty cool from 11D and the fluid templates, liquid templates, sorry. And let's just work on the featured tips, because I want let me double check. I guess it doesn't matter in this case. Because we only have 2 featured and then 3 for this top advanced. So I guess it doesn't matter. I was thinking that there were more in one, which would help out with the grid, but we can just call this card grid. And I'm just going to put it around our cards. So if I save, hopefully we can see this in action. Cool. So that is correct. Always check your work, right? So yeah, we have a card grid, and then we have our 3 cards inside of it, which is perfect. So now let's go into our grid.scss, and we're going to go card-grid. And this is definitely where I'm going to need some reference material here. Okay, perfect. So the first thing you have to do is display grid. I should probably just do flex because that's what I'm more comfortable with, but we're here to learn. So I said, let's just do 3 cards, since that's our max that we have in our homepage. Oh, sorry, I didn't show you the code here. So display of grid, and then we're going to do grid template columns, and we're going to say, I think we just need 3 columns. So repeat, we're going to repeat this 3 times, 1 FR. So we're going to do, I think that's right. I think that's, our width should just be 1 fraction of our grid. We're doing 3, so it's going to be a third basically. So hopefully that's correct. I'm also going to just do this now, a gap of 1 rem, because we are going to want that. So hopefully when we go back here, I'm going to restart our server and see if this, oh, there we go. Okay, hey, that worked. Excellent. So now we have some cards that are actually kind of identifiable as cards. They're a lot smaller. We've got our, this is looking a lot better than it was before, of course. And we can even just hurry and go back to this index, and let's just add our card grid wrapper class right here. Hit save, go back, and now, hey, this is even awesome to just double check our work with the image. Image is looking really good. It's full width of the card, but the padding is still on our text. All that good stuff. So, okay, this is really cool. I think we're in a good spot. What I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna figure out why that headings thing didn't work, because I think it's a really nice solution, and I've used it in other places, so I'm not sure what I did wrong here, but so I'm gonna do that, and I'm also gonna just clean up, in our resources, I've got a lot of pages with a lot of cards, and so I need to add the card grid on all of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that on my own, and then we're gonna jump back into it and start, fleshing this out to be a little bit more usable. We're gonna get our nav figured out. We're gonna make this look really nice and really easy to navigate, and get our email dev and design tips. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and